would be do we have a roll call?
Yeah, we can do a roll call. I don't know, Tammy or Don, who's better suited to do a roll call, I guess, for this meeting?
I think you might be, actually.
Okay.
Yep. Take this meeting, Rocky.
Okay. I can do the roll call. Commissioner Campbell. Commissioner Thorstead.
Present.
Commissioner Pollock. Commissioner Steen.
Here.
Manager Gust.
Here.
Manager Olson. Roger, are you there?
Here.
Commissioner Strand.
Here.
Councilmember Carlson.
Here.
Katie Mastel from the chamber.
Here.
And I think that's our members that are on the line. There's a number of staff as well. But
Okay,
that's a
Rocky,
quorum.
thank you. All right. So the first item on the agenda is meeting minutes. And we have two sets, one from January 29th. That would be our regular meeting. And then also from a special meeting in February. Do we have a motion on these minutes?
This is Councilmember Carlson. I move to approve.
Jake seconds.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 2 would be the updated informational points. Rocky?
This is Rocky. I just want to mention that Commissioner Campbell is on the line as well. His phone is just muted. So if we want to represent that in the minutes as well. Just to make sure everybody knows, I did send out an email a little while ago with some additional attachments and links to videos. We are not going to show any videos today, just given the nature of the meeting, but we do have a couple of really exciting videos. So if you take a look at your email, that's where sort of the packet is, if you will. First item that's in there is the updated informational points. We have updated these. The areas in red are what's updated to kind of give you a quick glance at it. You can run through it. We added a section about COVID-19 and the impacts on the diversion project and that they're being watched very closely. We don't know the extent of impacts yet, but we're doing everything we can to minimize those impacts. Maybe a couple other just notes in here is the Corps continues their construction and they're continuing to look for future areas where the next step of construction is, so you can see that in there. Otherwise, there's not a lot of updates on the litigation side. We expect in June there's 2 different hearings, and so that's really the next major milestone on there. And then there's a couple land acquisition updates in there as well, but it's a good document. It's public, so feel free to use it or share it with anybody that you come across. And it's a good, helpful, easy update for people. If you didn't get a copy of it, I plan to have a wider distribution after this meeting to the board as the public outreach update this month. But if you're not on that email either, please give me a shout out and I can send it to you.
Rocky,
Okay,
this is Councilmember Carlson. Will you be giving us a clean copy if we wanted to share this or post this on social media or anything like that?
Yep, I can do that. That's good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, item 3 is the communication plan update. Number 1 would be the schedule.
Yeah, with one of those COVID-19 situations where we actually well-timed. We had done a number of focus groups. I think we had 12 different focus groups with a couple dozen people. I believe all of you were a part of those and appreciate that. We are still working to kind of put that information together and put it into a plan with goals and objectives and strategies for next steps. The other big data point we got were those public surveys. I'm sure a number of you got those in the mail. We sent out over 10,000 of them. We've gotten back 2,300 and they're still trickling in. We started entering all that data. We don't have any more details for you at this time, but expect at the probably next month's meeting, we'll have maybe some more fun facts from that data. But we were really happy with that turnout. I think we were expecting about a 10% turnout, and so we exceeded that by a lot. And we're happy with the results there. So look forward to the future, but it gives us a lot of data to actually put into our work, because I know we all have a lot of ideas, and it's nice to have a little bit of data to back up. Is that a good thing or not? You know, a good thing to do.
Rocky,
So,
this
Rocky,
is
when will we get those survey results? Or
Well, I guess it's a question for the committee. You know, a lot of the survey results are geared around, you know, where people get their media and where do they want to get their media, and also if they're getting enough. And so a lot of that we probably don't need to see until it's in our communications plan. You know, that's ultimately the sort of the published report of the data. I'm happy to break that down in any way prior to that too, if the committee's interested.
Rocky, this is Shelley, Councilmember Carlson. Could we also, just to include in the meeting minutes, can you give a short synopsis of where those surveys were mailed out to?
Yeah, absolutely. Just flipping through my notes here to have the exact numbers. We sent in the upstream North Dakota area, which is the 3 townships on the North Dakota side, there was about 700 that went there. On the Minnesota side, in a similar area upstream of the project, there were over 500 sent out. I think those went to every property owner in those townships. In Fargo, we sent out to over 4,000 people, like 4,400. In West Fargo, we sent out about 2,500. And in Moorhead, another 4,000 went out in Moorhead. So pretty strong numbers, I think. I didn't have the total number back from Moorhead yet because those were slightly delayed from the original mailing. But in Fargo, for instance, we got over 1,000 survey returns just from Fargo. So Fargo is a really high turnout. I expect Moorhead probably was as well. So happy to share the results once we kind of finish calculating those.
Okay. That'd be great. Thank you.
Rocky, this is Tammy Jo. I know we've gotten at least 450 back from Moorhead so far.
Thank you. So we met the 10% threshold, which was our goal.
well, that's great. I'm glad people are wanting to voice their opinions and answer questions for us. That hopefully it'll strengthen our outreach plan. So did you cover the plan development number 3? Is that?
Yeah, so that was that.
Kind
So
of part
over
of
the
that.
next month, we'll be working to put those results of the focus group together into different strategies and how we can achieve those strategies and measure the effectiveness of them.
Okay. Then item 4 is the outreach analytics.
Tammy, do you want to walk through
Tammy?
this?
I sure can. So we've kind of listed all the analytics in one slide today, but for those of you that can't see the slide, we've got almost 300 views on the web map, almost 3,000 sessions on the website, about 1,000 minutes of watch time on YouTube last month with 7,800 impressions and 3,700 impressions with 5 tweets on Twitter. One thing that I will note is that we're getting back into the season where we can do UAS flights at the construction sites. And so one of the things that we will be tweeting more of is some of those UAS flights and doing live feeds from the construction site, from the Red River Inlet Control Structure, and then in the future, the wild rice river control structure that they'll be working on this summer. So kind of a normal month for us, and I anticipate those numbers will be higher next month with some of the video products we're releasing while people are physical distancing with COVID-19. And I think Rocky included the complete report in that email to committee members earlier today.
Yeah, I think those flyover videos are going to be really informative for the people, and especially, you know, through this virus ordeal that we've got, it'll kind of help them keep updated on what's going on and really get right on the site. You know, they're going to see it a lot better than even driving by. So I think that's a great tool that we can use.
Roger, with that in mind, we do have some
Yes.
time, I think. If we can try to show the videos through Teams, I know those that are calling in may not be able to see much from it, but it is a short video if we want to try doing that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, bear with me here. One second. Tammy, do you? Oh, here we go. I found it. Might have to get control. Can everybody see that now if I play it? All those. That working? Just want to point out here, what you see on the screen is that's the start of the channel. This was shot last Friday morning, I believe, at the inlet site. So they are out there working. You can see the two piles of dirt on either side. That's going to be the width of the inlet control structure. You can kind of get a sense of things as you see that crane and vehicles there about the pretty large structure that it'll be.
And Rocky, maybe
The
we
site
should
looks
note
pretty
that that this video is also going to be part of a little bit longer form educational video that has some more information about what the site is. There's not a lot of text on this video, and the committee has asked for videos that are more explanatory of what's going on. And so we're working on that right now with some great images from the Corps of Engineer to add.
Okay, that's great, Tammy. I was just going to make that comment that we need to have we need something on there to identify where we're at for the general public.
This is Councilmember Carlson. I was actually going to add that too. And, you know, the area where you spend a little bit of time on the steel thing sticking out of the ground, it would be nice to know what it is that we're looking at, what that's going to be, what the drilling thing is. Although I think the video is great though, but yeah, some of those kind of depictions of what we're looking at will be really helpful.
Yeah, my apologies. I should have started with that. This video was put together quickly. Yeah. Video started automatically. We put this together last Friday. We had a meeting with Senator Hoeven, and he was interested in a virtual tour of construction. And so the Colonel was on the line as well. And so we use this to talk through the construction. We have full intention of taking the committee's previous input and adding a bunch of sort of pop-up videos to make it more educational on what's going on. So we'll have that sent around later. This is just the one we had made up already.
All right, thanks, Rocky. Next item is the Relentless Red. It's a 30-minute production. Is that something we have enough time. I guess I should let everybody know that we're going to join in with the Land Committee at 2:30, and we're going to listen to the NDSU Agricultural Risk and Prevent Plant presentation. So we do have plenty of time. I don't know if we want to look at this video. I think what's left on the agenda is not won't take up a lot of time. So what do you think, Rocky? Do you want to play the Facebook Relentless Red?
You know, we certainly could. Maybe we want to get through the rest of the agenda first, and that could play. So I know probably as we get closer to 2:30, you know, we're going to have the early arrival of the Lands Committee members, and so it might be a good transition video to have playing.
Okay.
But
sure. All right. Well, the next is item 3. I did a 3 questions video. You want to wait on that one too, or what do you want to do?
One thing to note, it's hard for audio to come through when you're showing a video on Teams meeting. So
okay.
It might not be a good platform to show the 3 questions video, but I would encourage people to take a look at it.
All right, we'll do that. And then the next item is Drain 27 Wetland Restoration Public Meeting. Rocky?
yeah, thank you. This is the first public group that is hearing about this. We sent a mailing out this morning, actually, to a number of property owners in the area and officials in Stanley Township and with the Southeast Cass Water Resource District in what we've called the Camel's Hump area, the project where the southern embankment bumps up to the north. There's Drain 27, which will no longer be Drain 27 after the project is built. It's a naturally low-lying area because it's a drain. This is an ideal area to do some mitigation that's required of the project as far as wetland restoration. And working with the Corps of Engineers, they have identified this as a prime area, which would take the drain and then a little area around the drain as well that would continue to be a wetland into the future. So most of that area is the drain, but there is some agricultural land that is being proposed to become a wetland again. The one pager, it's a front and back that was sent out in that email I sent out before the committee. It's good information about what is a wetland, why they're important, why it's required of the project, and more about the location. In addition to that, we sent out a more detailed property owner map to all the residents affected by this in the area. we are proposing to host a virtual meeting on April 30th at 4 p.m. There's a link in the letter, and we'll send that around as well as we get closer. We're hoping to get the mailing out yesterday so that this would coincide with when the property owners get it, but I think this will be close enough. This is a somewhat new concept probably to a lot of people, and so probably get a lot of questions on what this means, but I think it's a good use of the project area. If anybody has any questions on that.
Well, I think there'll be a lot of questions on, there's farm fields that drain through this system. What's the plan to accommodate that drainage? I think those are items that'll come up in the meeting, and hopefully we'll have the answer for that.
Sure.
Roger, this is Jake. That's on our agenda tomorrow.
Okay, all right.
Maybe one of the other things that's just interesting from an outreach standpoint, given COVID-19, talking with our other partners here, this is the first one that I know of that's trying to do a public meeting this way. I think we have a lot of these public meetings where there's committees or boards or even bid openings type things where you have to broadcast them. But this is actually something where we're hoping the public will participate in and ask questions and be part of the discussion. So it'll be kind of interesting. Think it could work well, but as we've seen with all these meetings, there's always a hiccup that's, best planning doesn't catch them all. And so we'll see how it works. Hopefully it's not a long-term solution to this thing, but if we need to do this is a nice one, because I think the mailing went out to something like 16 people, so it's not a super large group, more manageable. So kind of interesting from an outreach standpoint on if this sort of fits the bill or not.
So who's actually running this meeting?
So Derek Ingolstead with the Corps of Engineers is the project contact. My guess is that he will do the presentation. I know our lands team has been very involved in this as well, so they may have a role.
Okay. So outreach will not.
We will review the presentation ahead of time. My hope is, because a lot of the people maybe will be using the call-in number and not the link on their computer, we are going to rely a lot on that one pager to be able to walk through the data. So I guess my suggestion is to make the PowerPoint very similar to the one pager. So those that just got the mailing and only have that as their visual, it'll sync up well. I think that'll be one way we reduce the issues between this virtual world we're in.
This is Councilmember Carlson.
Right,
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Roger. I did have a question. So on Teams, during this whole COVID thing, I've become familiar with about 4 or 5 different platforms. One of them, I think it's Cisco, has the ability to raise your hand. Is there an ability on the Teams to be able to do that? I'm just thinking, like, for the public to be able to kind of raise their hand, and whoever is moderating or facilitating the meeting, there would be at least some sense of order so people aren't trying to talk over one another. Or is there a capability in this program to do that?
Yeah, I think we keep learning new tricks. We're actually using Blue Jeans as the technology for this public meeting. It's a little bit different, but a couple benefits that we found was, one, the URL link is a lot more manageable to put in a letter. And second, it allows us to have a local phone number. And we thought that was important when dealing with property owners. I think it's maybe less important for board and committee meetings where most people use their cell phones. But if you're sending something out to the general public, we wanted to have a local number. Was a higher priority. I am not sure if that has the raise hands method. I know WebEx does, which is the program you were talking about. I used that this morning on the call. That's a good idea. We should probably play around with Blue Jeans a little bit more and see what sort of functionality there's on that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just think it helps to at least get some sense of order.
Mm-hmm.
helpful that way.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll, I see the North Dakota Legislator Water Topics Committee has been postponed.
Yeah, I just wanted to update that that was postponed. We did do a lot of work putting together an updated presentation for that group. We used that presentation actually last week with a meeting with the Business Leaders Flood Task Force, and that's not on the agenda here, but it was a very good meeting. Joel Paulson did a nice presentation. I think there were about 34 people on that. I think it was a Zoom call, and it was actually really pretty seamless. So kudos to Katie and the chamber group for figuring that all out and everybody doing the right work. But it shows it's possible to have a very large meeting that's a lot of discussion on there too. So.
Hey, Rocky, this is Joel.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the presentation went very well with the chamber last week. I'd also like to note I was asked by the North Dakota Legislative Caucus from Cass County to put on that same presentation this Friday. So I'm intending to give that presentation again. I think if there's anybody on this committee that would want to sit in on that, they'd be more than welcome, and I could get them the invite for that.
All right, Joel, will any members want to just get a hold of Joel, or and you'll get the contact information to get on. And item 8 is the Ag Risk and Prevent Plant presentation by NDSU, and that will be running in about a half hour. We'll have a joint meeting with the Land Committee meeting. So let's go back to, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say I could give a little preface on the Relentless Red item, which I think is where you were going, and maybe we could have jammed this all in at a regular time period, but I think this makes everybody a little more comfortable with the transition of meetings. So the Relentless Red is a video production that really came out of a couple things. The Fargo communications team for a while now has been pushing us to come up with a 30-minute of content that they can play on public access TV. And so we took that into account with our last communications plan update, where we found that the Diversion Authority was sort of seen as a faceless entity, and we weren't telling stories, and we didn't have a face of the project, and for a lot of different reasons. One of the things we tried, one of the strategies we had to combat that was to try to do more videos of people, like Roger's video, and others that have on this committee and elsewhere that have done the 3 questions video. We had a lot of sort of B-roll from that as well. And so we took the advice of Fargo's team and thought, how can we put that together in sort of a documentary format with all these, great news clips we had and personal stories. And we put together a video, released it yesterday. It aired on public access TV last night, sent out a press release yesterday. It's going to be on public access a number of more times and over the next week if you're channel surfing. It's also on the City of Fargo's webpage on Facebook. It's got almost 2,000 views on Facebook, and it's on our YouTube station as well. And so it's been pretty well viewed. Tammy's got it sharing on the screen there now. If you want audio, you'll have to pull it up yourself, I think. Audio doesn't share so well across the screen here, but I think it's a really, I think it's a powerful video that talks a lot about the history and about the project history as well. And I don't think it does it in a controversial way. It's just sort of, this is the history of the project. So thanks to everybody for their parts in it. It took a lot of people to put that together. Has everybody had a chance to watch it? I guess one thing I'd urge is, trying to do this as cost effectively as possible on social media. It helps if you like and you share this if you're willing. I know Commissioner Campbell shared and a number of others have shared on Facebook, and all that helps. We've gotten a lot of good feedback from people so far on it, and more people that see it, that kind of takes a life of its own at times too.
Rocky, maybe we can just leave this playing until the next meeting starts as people join the Lands Management Committee meeting.
Yeah, that works. I know it probably comes across a little less smooth, the video. You can't see Mike Morkin's mustache quite clearly, but it's encourage you to watch it if you just wanted to spend the time clicking the link in the email as well.
Rocky, this is
I
Katie
clicked
from the
it on
chamber here.
Go ahead, Katie.
Sorry, this is Katie with the chamber. I did have a chance to watch this whole video, and yeah, it is a very powerful video, very good look. Being someone that wasn't in the community for some of these floods and coming in only 4 years ago, it's a really cool look at, you know, what was happening around that time too for some of us that weren't here. So I think this will be really powerful for the community as well, for those that maybe don't understand completely what it was like and what can happen. I'm just kind of wondering, you know, I'll definitely share with our flood task force and on our chamber page. Is there any other strategic plan for getting this out? I know you talked a little bit about that and where you guys are pushing it and having people share it, but anything else we can help with or need to talk about as far as getting it out? Has that been a conversation?
Yeah, it's a good segue. Thanks, Katie. You know, obviously shares are valuable, and groups like yours have a very large audience, and so that's really appreciated. We did work with the City of Fargo, and there's a small budget that put into boosting the Facebook video on the City of Fargo's page. That hasn't been activated yet. It goes through an approval process with Facebook, and so once that does, that we expect to see, you know, a lot more views and a lot, you know, popping up on people's screens and that sort of thing. And curious to see the effectiveness of that. You know, Facebook is, if you've never used Facebook advertising, the analytics on there are sort of top notch. But in addition to that, we have talked to some of the local TV stations to see what it would cost to air this, you know, as a whole 30 minutes, and we're compiling that information. TV time's expensive, and so obviously this sort of earned media option on social media is preferred. And so sharing it, I think, is the right way to do it. But I know public access is pretty generous with this. For Councilmember Carlson, I think Fargo's communications team was going to reach out to Moorhead Public Service too, or the public access TV over in the Moorhead side, and see if they'd be willing to run this as well. So when I say public access, it's just in the Fargo public access, but we're working to expand that.
Thanks,
What
Rocky.
about Prairie Public?
Prairie Public's one we're talking to about ability to run it. They have, you know, they are also a production house, and so they have the ability to produce their own type of thing like this, and so they wanted to review this first and make sure that, you know, it's not a, you know, like a political ad, you know, type thing. And so we haven't gotten rates back from them or what sort of partnership we could have on this, but we're working on that.
I'm sorry if you already mentioned that. I was busy watching and listening to the video on YouTube.
That's great. I don't know if anybody else has watched it and had comments on it. We are working on a part 2. So when we were looking back at the 3 questions videos, we really saw a pretty clear divide between history, you know, and project development. And then the other thing we're hearing through our focus groups is people want to know how the project works. And we had a number of, you know, interviews with engineers and similar folks about how the project works once it's done. And we thought that would be a good part 2. And there's maybe a couple holes there that we'd have to talk about how we fill those with new interviews and that sort of thing. But we have a very good start on that already with just the video that we have on hand. So. You know, I think a lot of this, trying to picture out 10, 20 years from now, as Katie mentioned, as new people come to the community, and look back on this. You know, a lot of these sort of interviews are historic in that nature, and you look back at the folks that maybe aren't here with us anymore that were part of the project, like Mayor Wallaker and others, that it sure would have been nice to capture these type of things on camera and just have it for the longevity.
I really like how the narrative goes with like it's people that are relatable and people that we know in the community. I think that's really good, Rocky. It helps kind of keep you engaged through the 30-minute video. So I really like that and think that's good to keep in future videos just for, you know, the public. These are familiar faces, so that's awesome.
Maybe just to fill some dead air. We have two hearings coming up in June on the litigation side. One is the contested case hearing, which is our defending with the Minnesota DNR their issuing of the permit, and that starts June 8th. So far, we haven't seen any signs of delay on that due to COVID. I know there's probably that pressure, but so far, so good on that. And then there's also the hearing in later June, and that's in Becker County. That's us challenging the Buffalo Red denial of the local permit. Those are two updates. You may see some things between now and then is related to filing of testimony, as both sides sort of go through the ceremonial steps up to that process where you submit different testimony and rebuttals. And I don't think we're planning to make any news off those type of things and sort of let the court speak for itself when we get there, but you could see that in the news if somebody wanted to make a situation of it.
Where's the June 8th meeting? Is that Minneapolis, or where's that at?
I believe that's in St. Paul. Might be Minneapolis, but yeah. Mary Sherling has just joined the meeting too, Roger, if you can't see that. And so if you want to talk about how this will transition.
Hi, Mary.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Mary and I talked about how we would transition, and I think our outreach group will just join the land committee, and it'll be considered a joint meeting to listen to the NDSU report. And then after that NDSU report, if there's time, Mary will call for some questions. And at that point, if there's no questions or they've all been answered, then I will ask for adjournment of the outreach committee, and that will release us from the meeting, from the joint meeting. Mary, did I outline that okay?
Sounds perfect, Roger. Thanks.
And Mary will call the land meeting to order here at 2:30, and then they'll just be take the roll and some minutes, and then we'll go ahead with NDSU. You know, the video on and audio on here are just a great 30-minute refresher course on where we've been and why this project is so needed. And it just gives a human perspective to this, to the flooding. We've got some great comments by elected officials and comments by homeowners, and yeah, I think it's an excellent video, Rocky.
Thanks. Sorry we didn't get your video done soon enough to be a part of it.
That's all right.
You know,
We can look at that.
maybe one
another time.
thing, not to put her on the spot, but Joel has hired an executive assistant, Dawn, and she at the next meeting will be the sort of secretarial duties for the committee, and so likely she'll be in charge of the next emails to you, as with agendas and minutes and probably calendar appointments. And so as you get all your emails, keep a lookout for her name, because she'll be the official diversion authority notice on those type of things. And so I don't want to put her on the spot, she has to talk, but I wanted to update you that she is on the call and she'll be handling a lot of those things going forward. Maybe Joel could talk
Welcome
about.
aboard, Dawn.
Yeah, thanks, Rocky. Yeah, I'm proud to introduce Dawn Lindblom to the program. Dawn was selected among many candidates for the position. She came highly recommended, and we're extremely excited to have her on board. I've had the opportunity to work with her over the last 3 weeks, and it's been extremely enjoyable. So definitely a new asset to the Diversion Authority. And like you said, Rocky, we don't want to put Dawn on the spot, but Dawn, if you feel so inclined, maybe introduce yourself and say a little something about yourself. So.
Well, thanks, Joel and Rocky. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to hopefully meeting all of you one-on-one, and hopefully sooner rather than later. So looking forward to it. It's going to be good, and just glad to be part of the team.
Joel, are there any other executive director updates you want to use the time for, I guess?
Yeah, Rocky. So Rocky kind of hit on the COVID-19 impacts. I think that's a big question for a lot of people, and how the diversion project is impacted. It's really too early to tell on a lot of the different metrics that are kind of lagging that'll come in the next month or two. I'd like to just, for everyone's benefit though, just maybe update on the biggest topics. We're still moving forward, full steam ahead with the P3 procurement. We do anticipate that may be delayed slightly. We don't anticipate any major issues there. We have engaged the 3 teams, and we're moving forward through the process and kind of hitting our schedule marks at the moment. So that's encouraging. And as the committee knows, we're intending to have those P3 bids by the end of the year, with the intent to close the P3 agreement and move into construction in 2021. And so we don't see any major significant impacts due to COVID-19 as far as that's concerned. I think the biggest potential impact could potentially be the drop in sales tax revenue this year, obviously associated to the businesses being closed and the economy taking a pretty significant decline due to the worldwide crisis that is COVID-19. And again, we'll start to get some of that data in the next few months. We do feel like we've spent a significant amount of time determining contingency plans as far as forecast year 2020 funding is concerned. And so there are some different routes that we can go. And obviously, we're positioned very well for any potential federal stimulus bill related to construction. And so that could be kind of a wild card that we're not anticipating in our financial plan, but could certainly be a big boost to the project, depending on what Congress puts together and what ultimately gets released. And so I think from a historical perspective for infrastructure, stimulus funding has always been a very positive thing. I think Congress has always viewed construction of infrastructure as a great way to get people working and jumpstart economic conditions in certain locations. And when we talk about the impact of construction, socioeconomic impacts of the diversion project locally, it's pretty massive. The Corps estimates there'll be about 14,000 jobs through the duration of the project construction that would be created. So when we talk about getting people back to work and stimulating the economy, and how close we are to closing on our P3 agreement, the project really is positioned very well for the potential for federal stimulus funds. So certainly something to keep an eye on, certainly something we are advocating and lobbying for in DC, and could certainly have some pretty major positive ramifications for the diversion project.
Joel, do you want to comment on the legal and what the feeling is there?
Yeah, I can do that, Roger. I think Rocky did a good job of kind of outlining the schedule for the two cases that are pertinent for the diversion authority. They're both somewhat tied together. However, they're obviously for separate permits. We feel that the case with Buffalo Red is extremely strong, and however, we continue to hopefully potentially work with that board to try to find a way through the legal concerns without going to court. But ultimately, we feel we're in a very strong position as far as that's concerned. And just to note, the Diversion Authority went above and beyond the requirements of the Buffalo Red rules and worked with them extensively to develop conditions that in some cases were outside the purview of Buffalo Red, but we were prepared to accept the conditions and implement them into the project. So we hope we can find some common ground and get back to those types of discussions. But ultimately, the courts will decide if the permit was rejected properly, and if not, and if we gain a permit through the court action, we still hope to potentially work with Buffalo Red to meet some of their conditions to meet the rules and do what's right for the watershed itself. As far as the contested case hearing goes, I think that's moving along very well. I think our legal team has spent an extensive amount of time in preparation, and we are entering that as prepared as we can be. We feel the DNR has also addressed all the concerns of the opposition in that case, and we feel very strong in the arguments that the DNR has in support of their permit. And so, we will feel we'll get a favorable outcome there. And of course, as everyone knows, the recommendation from the judge in that case will go to the DNR commissioner. It's her prerogative to decide whether to implement the judge's either recommendations or approval, and then issue a statement and the permit once again. So we look forward to getting those behind us come midsummer here, and then move into the procurement and close the deal for the P3, and really begin that significant construction of the channel in 2021. I'll also note on the federal scale, we have a number of upcoming federal projects that the Corps of Engineers intends to bid out this summer in fall, and that would be the I-29 grade raise project, which basically goes from the southern embankment and raises I-29 anywhere between 5 to 10 feet in places. all the way to a little bit south of County Road 18, where Oxbow is located. And that project's intended to mitigate the effects of the upstream retention area and allow I-29 to operate during the maximum storage event for the diversion project. And that'll ensure we always have those transportation routes in and out of the FM area, even during massively large floods. So that's a pretty significant project we'll be working on. And then in a couple weeks, the contractor is mobilizing to the wild rice control structure project, and that will begin construction here shortly. And so we look forward to breaking ground there, and more opportunities for Tammy Jo to do some flyovers with the drone and take some great footage of the start of that project and work within the Wild Rice River.
Hey, Joel, Roger here. Just one comment. Are we, or question, is there any talks ongoing with the Buffalo Red now? Or is there, any type of discussion about a compromise?
Not directly with the board, Roger. So we're always prepared to engage in conversation with any board members or with the board itself in trying to find a compromise. Our position is one that we want to work with the watershed district, and that's the way that it's always been. I mean, we engaged with extensive resources in trying to find different permit conditions that would meet all of the concerns of the Buffalo Red Board. We're still attending the meetings. We're still available at the meetings if there's any questions about anything concerning the diversion project from the board. Obviously, some of the discussions are limited due to the engagement of the council on both sides of the case. And so it's difficult to talk about the case in an open public forum without breaching some of those rules that the council has imposed on both sides. But we're still continuing to reach out to the board. I think we've made it pretty clear that we're ready to discuss any sort of compromise or any sort of solutions in order to meet their concerns and figure out a way to work in conjunction with the watershed district. So.
Hey, thanks, Joel, for the update. Any questions for Joel? I don't know if anybody noticed in one of President Trump's updates, is it Colonel Todd Semonette was on there giving, it was kind of fun to see him, knowing he's been here and supported our project, and he gave an update on how they're helping. They're helping with, I guess he's a lieutenant general, and how he's helping fight the virus and provide support for different cities and states. So I think that was on CNN or on one of the channels one night.
Roger, this is Joel, and just to add to that a little bit, the St. Paul District of the Corps of Engineers has been implementing General Semonite's approach to fighting COVID and creating local additional hospital beds. And so the St. Paul District has been assessing locations and working with local governments to identify and potentially construct additional medical facilities if necessary. And so I have been talking with the Corps quite a bit about workforce and where their individuals are dedicating their time, and they did suspend work on the FM diversion somewhat in anticipation of addressing the issues created from COVID-19. However, at this point, they have transitioned to hiring some private consultants to assist them and transitioning some of their folks back onto the project. Ultimately, I don't think it impacted the core schedule on any of the diversion projects, but I think it's interesting to note that the folks working directly on the diversion project have been assisting in General Semonite's approach of the Corps of Engineers in their assistance in tackling the effects of this national crisis.
We just got a couple minutes left here before we join in with the land committee.
Maybe just an update for everybody that has joined us recently. The Public Outreach Committee meeting is still going on, and it'll join up with the Land Committee for a joint meeting at 2:30. So as you join in, that's why there's so many people on the call already. So thanks for your patience.
Does anybody know how to turn their image?
As in turning it off or on?
No, I'm like sideways.
Ah, turning it.
Yeah,
You look just,
I need to rotate counterclockwise. Do I look upright to you?
yeah, you look great.
Oh, really? On
Yeah.
my screen, I'm sideways. So.
Just going to give it another minute here and then we'll get rolling. Want to make sure that we've got our land people online. Okay, then, welcome everyone. At this time, I will call to order the Diversion Authority Land Management Committee meeting of Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020.